In this lecture, we are going to see levels of language processing and some of the linguistic fundamentals that are important for going into the NLP research. So, natural language processing involves multiple levels of language processing. As in the last few sessions, we have seen why it's very difficult to process the natural language, and each level addresses different linguistic features and contributes to understanding and generating the natural language. And these levels of language processing can be classified into multiple levels. One is phonological level, morphological level, lexical level, syntactic level, semantic level, discourse level, and pragmatic level. So, each of the level tries to address the language understanding in different way. So, what are they? So, under the phonological level, we are interpreting the speech sounds of language. This is more helpful in speech processing kind of perspectives. And morphology is nothing but actually studying the word structure and understanding and interpreting the word patterns within particular word items. So, it helps us in interpreting the componential nature of words which are composed as morphemes. And third level of NLP research is lexical level. It helps us interpreting the meaning of individual words in isolation. Okay. And the fourth level is syntactic level, where it uncovers the grammatical structure of sentences. And the fifth level is on semantics. It determines the meaning of sentences by focusing on word level meaning as well as going beyond the word level too. And discourse, it focuses on the properties of text as a whole and makes connection between these sentences. And pragmatic level helps us in understanding the purposeful use of language in context, especially in situation. So, all these levels interact with each other and they interface with each other when we are trying to understand and interpret any natural language. Okay. Now, when you look at this processing level, starting with character or string level, there are multiple tasks and application that we can build through these levels. So, starting with character and string level, the task like word tokenization, it's a very important part these days in NLP, and sentence boundary detection, gene simple recognition, or text pattern extraction, in different kind of domains of language uses can be built through this particular level. And word level annotation comes through the morphological understanding of language. So, applications like pure tagging, parsing, chunking, term extraction, gene mention, recognition if you are working with the biomedical text, right. And sentence level helps us in classifying the sentence and identifying the ambiguity in the analysis, and it helps us in question answering, automatic summarization. And sentence window level helps us, let us say if we are selecting 4 or 5 sentences in length, which helps us in understanding the anaphora, that means the back reference of any of the expression, either it is a pronoun or any of the naming expression might have any back reference that will be actually been built. And on the paragraph and passage level, we are detecting the rhetorical zones in languages. And under the whole document level, we are trying to create document similarity calculation. And multi-document level collection helps us in document clustering and multi-document summarization. So, these tasks and application what I have mentioned here are only a few, but this processing level is the most important level for us to understand and interpret the language in a very deeper way. Okay. Let us talk about each of the levels in detail to give you an understanding on how they interact with each other. So, the phonological level actually means it focuses on the processing of sounds in natural language, including their organization and patterns. Okay. So, the significance of it in NLP is it's actually helping us in building speech recognition and text to speech kind of systems. So, it helps in understanding the pronunciation, accent variations, and phonetic transcriptions. And the key components that to be understood under the phonological levels is each of the speech sounds are called as meaningful speech sounds, which are called as phonemes. They are smallest units of sound that distinguishes meaning. And phonetic transcriptions represent sounds using phonetic symbols. One of the things are called IPA, it is International Phonetic Association. For example, when we are pronouncing a word like cat, so cat actually is pronounced as k, a and t, right? So, actually converting this actual graphemes, what we write is into a kind of phonemic situation is actually done through different kind of means, and IPA is also one of them. And prosody is another very challenging factor in NLP. So, the rhythm, stress and intonation patterns of speech convey meaning beyond the word themselves. For example, when I say I did this, I did this, I did this, when we are changing the intonation from one particular word to another particular word, the kind of meaning that we want to provide changes, right? So, all these things comes under understanding the language through the phonological level. So, in speech recognition, these spoken words are analyzed into phonemes, and this kind of analysis helps us in differentiating between the sound system that are available or being used in that particular language. And in text to speech, generating spoken language from text while considering prosody for natural language speech is important. So, varying intonations actually helps us in saying whether we are talking about some statement as a question or actually a statement. And accent recognition is important because differentiating between various accents, let's say it's an American accent or a British accent or an Indian accent, is very important. That comes through the phonological understanding of language. Okay. Let's come to the morphological level in NLP. This level in NLP involves in the study of the structure and formation of words, including their internal components. Let's say if I give a word like books. So, book has a kind of information where it's nothing but it's book plus s, right? So, the book actually carries the lexical meaning and s carries again a meaning. So, this both of them are called as morphemes. So, like phonemes, the distinct meaningful sound which is called as phonemes, morphemes are called minimal meaningful units which expresses some kind of meaning. So, the book meaning, there is a meaning for book, and this s actually represent either the plural marker if it is a noun, my books, or it can be a third person singular present tense marker if the sentence is he books the ticket, right. So, this information is nothing but a very crucial linguistic information that has to be understood. So, this is the internal component. Now, the significance of using this morphological level understanding is crucial for tasks like morphological analysis, lemmatization, stemming and part of speech tagging. We will talk about each one of them in detail in the next few lectures also, and it helps in understanding word forms, variations and their meaning. So, the key component that we have to understand here is morphemes, the smallest meaningful units. It can be a prefix, it can be a suffix, it can be a root, or in some languages it can also be an infix. That means it's been inserted between, breaking the word into pieces, it's been infixed. Similarly, there are many other processes. An inflection helps us in understanding the grammatical information a word carries. So, in the case of books, now s is an inflection. It carries the plural marker or the tense marker. And derivation is a kind of process It creates new words by adding either a prefix or a suffix. For example, happy can change into unhappy by adding the prefix called un. Right? So, these morphological analysis are very important to analyze the structure of words. It helps us in understanding how rich our languages are. So, in the world, all around 7,000 languages, not all languages behave in a similar fashion. Some languages encode lot of information on words. There may be one word which is an equivalent of a particular sentence, but there are languages which encode information separately. That means each of them have different kind of words. So, now when we are dealing with languages which are very, very rich morphologically, so understanding their internal structure is very important. So, these are all a kind of pre-processing techniques that we need to employ when we are working with a bigger application. And lemmatization is another technique which reduces the words to their base or a dictionary form. For example, let me take a very simple example initially. Let's take a word like, let's say, ladies. So, ladies, we know that it is nothing but, right, looking at the form, it is L-A-D-I plus, let's say, E-S as a plural marker, or you can even change it into L-A-D-I-E plus S as a plural marker, okay, in whatever way we are trying to analyze them. Now, this L-A-D-I or L-A-D-I-E is actually shape-wise different from L-A-D-Y, which is the actual shape of a root. Now, if I want to change ladies into L-A-D-Y plus S, now we have to lemmatize this form into this form. So, the process of reducing the word, that means their base, into the dictionary which you could find is nothing but the process of lemmatization. But there are cases in languages we have idiosyncratic behavior words. For example, better, the lemmatized word is good, good, better, best. Similarly, when you have went, so went requires the lemmatized form as go, which is the root which you could find in the dictionary. So, similarly, stemming is nothing but cutting words to their, again, root forms. Again, running, runner, run may all stem to something called run. And part of speech tagging is also kind of morphological and also little bit of syntactic process where we are trying to identify the grammatical category of word based on their morphology. So, running can be tagged either a noun or a verb depending on the context. Similar to books, just earlier I told, it can be a noun or a verb based on a particular context. So, identifying whether it is a noun or a verb kind of grammatical category is the task of part of speech tagging. Okay. When it comes to the lexical level in NLP, the lexical level in NLP deals with the vocabulary of languages, focusing on the meaning and its usage. So, the significance of this lexical level is it's essential for us to understand the meaning of the text, word relationship and the language generation. So, it's important for the tasks like information retrieval, sentiment analysis and machine translation. So, the key components that could be a outcome of understanding the lexical level is tokenization, because the process of breaking the text into individual words and tokens are important. Let us say a word, what we have is I'll come tomorrow or I'll come. Okay. So, now when we want to tokenize, we want to make sure that, let us say there is a dot here, we want to tokenize I as a separate thing, and let us say will is a separate thing and come as a separate token and dot is a separate token, right. So, this has 4 tokens, but which are expressed with only 2 elements where only one space in the between, right. So, this has to be improved as 4 tokens, right. So, this process of identifying the text into individual words are important, and languages show different kind of challenges depending on how the language stylistically used when we are writing or speaking. Okay, so that's a important thing which can be accessed through the tokenization. And lexical semantics, it's the study of word meaning, relationship and nuances, either synonyms, antonyms, hypernyms, homonyms, polysemy kind of thing that we just talked. So all these components need to be used to understand the meaning of words. And vocabulary is nothing but a set of words available in a language for a specific domain. So understanding this one is important for the lexical level. Okay, and now in NLP, now the outcome of understanding this one is we can build the tokenization. For example, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So each one of them are a different token. But this is not the easy case all the time because it changes when you have a complex text. And lexical semantics, understanding the word of bank and its meaning will help us in disambiguating its process. Similarly, synonymy detection helps us to know how words are related to each other, and they will also provide you similar meaning, and it will help us in building sentiment analysis kind of tools. Okay. When it comes to the syntactic level in NLP, so it involves in the arrangement of words to form grammatical sentences and the study its sentence structure. So the significance of this understanding in syntactic level is crucial for understanding the sentence meaning and its structure. And it's also important for tasks like parsing, machine translation and information extraction. We will talk about it, how it's been used in the next few lectures too. And the key components here that to be understood is parsing. So parsing is the process of analyzing the grammatical structure of a sentence, and it can be a constituency parsing where we are identifying the phrases within the sentence based on hierarchical structure, or whereas it can be a dependency parsing where we are establishing the relationship between words in a sentence and their dependencies. So what is this? For example, when you say the cat sat on the mat, we know that now the cat is one chunk, sat is another chunk, on the mat is another chunk. So the parsing helps us in identifying this is a noun phrase and this is a verb phrase, this is a prepositional phrase and it has a noun phrase. And you see the kind of way it's been actually grouped help us how each one of them are related and how they are dependent on a particular another phrase. So dependency parsing is another type of parsing which helps us in identifying the dependencies of each of the phrases to another phrase. For example, when you have a sentence like she loves him, so maybe I will explain it here. Love is a verb which carries the actual sense, and there is a she and there is a him, right? So she and him are dependent on loves, right? So she has a relationship as subject and him has a relationship as an object. So the dependency is she is dependent with love as a subject relation and him is dependent to loves as an object relation. So identifying that kind of relations are important to disambiguate the meaning when we have the structurally ambiguous constructions. And grammar rules are another thing that we need to understand, because syntax can be governed by rules. The rules are languages have different kind of structure. It can be a subject, verb or object, or a subject, object, verb, what is there in Hindi, Telugu, Tamil or most of our Indian languages. And more interestingly, most of our Indian languages fall under subject, object, verb. Only the exceptional language is called as Khasi, which is spoken in Meghalaya. So what does it mean? That means we always put the verb in the final position of the sentence. Okay. When it comes to the semantic level in NLP, it deals with the meaning of words, phrases and sentences, focusing on how meaning is constructed and how it's being used for interpretation. Okay, what is the significance of understanding the semantic level? So it's essential for understanding the context, because as we told, context plays a very important role and resolving ambiguities in languages. And it is important for tasks like sentiment analysis, again information retrieval and machine translation, because understanding the core semantics helps us in getting this application works in an efficient way. Now the key components here is building word sense disambiguation, which is called as WSD. So it helps us in determining which meaning of a word is used in context. So semantic role labeling is another component. It helps us in identifying the role that words play in a sentence. For example, we can again take the same sentence like she loves him, the dependency analyzed one. Now this is a subject and this is an object. But this subject and object will not help us to show what the role it plays, right? So now he is the agent who is loving. So he is she's an agent, and him is actually a person who is being affected or receiving that action called love, right? So we call it as either patient or a theme. Right now I'll call it as a patient. So identifying this role is coming, it comes through identifying their semantic roles. And named entity recognition is another important thing. It helps us in recognizing and classifying the entities into different kind of names, whether it is a person name or is it an institution name, or is there any dates, is there any location. Okay, this can come through this one. So now WSD will help us whenever there are ambiguities which comes because of a particular word. So this determines the correct meaning based on a context. So bank will be determined with the correct meaning because there is a money. If it is in the sentence, it means actually in the meaning number 1, let's say financial bank. And the river bank was eroded when you have a context where river and eroded, and this context tells you, okay, the meaning of bank is 2, it means river bank. And similarly, semantic role labeling helps us in giving the roles like John gave Mary a book. John is an agent who is giving the book, and the recipient of the book is Mary, and what is being given here is a book. Okay, and named entity recognition helps us in identifying and disambiguating if the word has ambiguous senses because of their named entity it's been attached to. So for example, Apple is looking at buying UK startup for $1 billion. It identified Apple here as an organization, not as a fruit, right? And the location here is UK, and the monetary value is $1 billion. So understanding this information in a structured way is important when you are working with any of the bigger application, let's say question answering or summarization or any other task requires to identify this information in a structured pattern. Okay, let's come to the discourse level in NLP, and this is again higher level in linguistic to understand how language works in context, especially focusing on coherence and cohesion in language. So what are they and why is it important? So again, it's important for understanding the context beyond individual sentence, because all this earlier approaches in morphology, syntax and semantics, we are still talking about a smaller window of context, but we have to go beyond the individual sentence to understand the complete sense. So it's important again for multiple tasks, either summarization, machine translation or dialogue systems. So the key component here that to be understood is coherence. So there is a logical flow of ideas in a sentence, because that helps us in identifying the meaning. There is a meaningful element that is attached to. That's nothing but identifying that kind of factor is called coherence. Cohesion, on the other hand, it's a grammatical and lexical linking within a text that helps us in maintaining the flow of the whole text. So the one particular sentence is being connected with another sentence, or one paragraph is connected with another paragraph through different kind of cohesion techniques. And anaphora resolution helps us actually identifying words which are referring back to others, which we were talked earlier too. So it helps us in resolving pronouns to their antecedents. So now how are they going to help in NLP research? So when you have a sentence like she went to the bakery, she bought a loaf of bread. Now the ideas are here coherent, right? Because she went to the bakery where they sell the bread. But instead, if you give a sentence like she went to the bakery and she washed her hair. Okay, so the idea is not coherent in that second sentence, because bakery and washing hair cannot happen in the similar place, right? So cohesion, of course, as I told, it helps us in linking the ideas through different means. One of the means are using linking words like however, therefore, moreover. This helps us in add this cohesion between sentences so that there is a flow of the idea across the context. And anaphora resolution helps us, let's say, John loves his dog, it follows him everywhere. So now who is him or who is it actually requires some kind of context. So now actually this reference comes through anaphora identification. And the seventh level of, or the deeper level of linguistic analysis that are required for NLP is pragmatic level. So this level focuses on how context influences the interpretation of meaning in communication. Because in discourse we have looked at how context is important, coherence and cohesion play an important role, and how linking like anaphora helps us. But in the pragmatic level, how the context influences the interpretation of meaning in communication, and considering the speaker's intent on the situational context is being understood. So the significance of it in NLP is it's essential for understanding any implied meaning, sarcasm and conversational dynamics. So again, it's been used in all variety of application. If you are building any context aware application, pragmatic knowledge is very much important. So the key components that to be understood here are speech acts. Speech acts are actions performed by utterances, either request, promises, assertions or command kind of thing. And deixis, it's a word which helps us in require the contextual information which conveys the meaning like here, you kind of thing. And contextual understanding. So this ability of interpreting meaning based on situational context and background knowledge comes through the contextual understanding. So now how does that helps in NLP? So understanding the speech act helps us, okay, can you pass the salt is a request, not just a question about capability. Right? And deixis help us, I'll meet you here tomorrow. The interpretation is here and tomorrow depends on the speaker's location and the current day. Right? So today, tomorrow will be the next day. So tomorrow, then tomorrow will be day after tomorrow. So that kind of understanding comes through the understanding of deixis. And contextual understanding, let's say in a conversation where one person says, it's cold in here, it may be implying a request to close a window rather than just stating a fact, right? So there is a connection implication to the sentence that we normally speak. So all these things comes through the pragmatical level understanding of language. Now, these levels actually are very important and they interact with each other. So how? For example, if we are trying to understand the word and its internal structure, the semantic level is important. Syntactic construction, where that particular word occurs, is important. The pragmatic level and discourse understanding is also important. So all these levels, either it's a phonological, lexical, morphological, syntactical, semantical, pragmatical or discoursal level, each one of them actually interact with each other. So this is very fundamental for interpreting the human language more effectively. So each level contributes uniquely in NLP application. So phonological level, we know that it focuses on sounds and forms and essential for speech recognition and text-to-speech systems. Morphological level, of course, it deals with meaning as well as the grammatical relationship. So this is crucial for parsing, information extraction, and also the downstream applications like machine translation, question answering kind of thing. And semantic and discourse levels enhances the understanding of meaning beyond words, and it's vital for machine translation and dialogue systems. And pragmatic level understanding emphasizes the context in communication, and they are very relevant for conversational agents and sentiment analysis. So the conclusion is integrating insights from all these levels lead to more accurate and effective interaction between humans and machines. So now advancement in these processing levels will enhance NLP capabilities, because making them adapt to understanding and generating language contextually and semantically is what we need. So this requires an understanding of language and how language works through, and how we are going to make sure to implement the same kind of understanding into the NLP perspectives, especially when it comes to the data. So if raw data can be used for making any of the application, it is not true in all cases. When we have a low resource situation, understanding the levels, how language works, and annotating them with lot of information will also help us in getting the similar kind of application when we are working with high resource languages. So let's make sure that understanding language properties is also very much important for going towards the NLP research.